This is AgGrad Live.
We have all of the different segments within the cotton.
The show that explores what it's really like to work in the ag industry.
So making sure that we get policy and regulatory issues
straight from the people who live it every day.
Hey everybody out there in AgGrad land. We are at my favorite time of the week, and this is when we get to pause our normal course of business and sit down with somebody doing interesting work inside the industry of agriculture. And as you probably know by now, because I think this is like number 29, we've been profiling the 30 under 30 in agriculture. These are the winners of our first ever 30 under 30 program, where we select 30 individuals before their 30th birthday that are all making a big impact early in their career on agriculture. We have opened up our nominations for next year's 30 under 30. So if you haven't yet, go to this website right here, 30under30.ag, and nominate somebody because we would love to profile them next year as our second class. But here we are with our inaugural class, and we have a guest today I'm really, really excited about. We're going to talk some ranching and then also educating the next farm and ranch managers. We have Kaden Eisenbraun. Kaden, we'll bring you on. How's it going?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing great. Thanks so much for doing this. I'm really excited to hear more about your career, how you got into ranching, and what you're doing to kind of train the next farm and ranch managers. But maybe just as a start to the conversation here, tell us about the ranching operation that you grew up around.
Yeah, so I'm a seventh generation farmer and rancher. We farm and ranch just north of Wall, South Dakota in Creighton, and we are primarily commercial cattle, but we also have our herd of Angus livestock, and then a herd of black Angus, and then a herd of red Angus as well. We also used to be in the quarter horse game a little bit, but couldn't find too much money in that. We also do some dry land farming as well with wheat, safflower, millet, and alfalfa, and then just a ton of hay production. And been involved with that ever since I was little, and it's something I've always really, really enjoyed, and that's kind of how I got my start in ag. And it's something that I want to be able to continue through the next generations of my family too. So I've been trying to take care of it and expand on it as much as possible.
So seventh generation, I'm not great at mental math. When does that mean that the Eisenbrauns settled the ranch there?
So this ranch that we're currently on isn't our seventh generation in this current location, but I'm the seventh generation farmer rancher anyway. We originally were settled in Oklahoma, and before that we were immigrants who came over as farmers and ranchers from Germany and Russia. So been involved in it for a while anyway, and just want to keep making my ancestors proud and my future generations of my family proud too.
All right. So are you joining us from the ranch today, or are you at your other job?
Yeah, so I'm actually at my other job today. I am the Farm and Ranch Management Instructor and Program Director at Western Dakota Tech, which is a technical college in Rapid City, South Dakota. So I'm about 65 miles away from the ranch right now, but this is my opportunity to get off the ranch. It's an additional income that kind of helps me supplement my ranch income, and gives me an opportunity to interact with the next generation and educate them on instances that, things that I've gone through already, being pretty young, things that they're likely going to go through, teaching them about succession, some of those different struggles that they're likely to occur or come across, and then just some different ways that they can practice and manage their future operations or ag businesses so they can be as successful as possible.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So before you started doing that, teaching, this program's, were you on the ranch full time? And was that a tough decision to actually take on work outside of the ranch?
So I have never been on the ranch 100% full time. I've always had some sort of supplemental income. We're a fairly large operation, but I still have several family members who are involved full time out there, and I'm the youngest one in my family. So I'm involved as much as I can be, and whenever they need help, I'm always there. But as far as sustaining all of us and providing a good, solid income for all of us in the livelihoods that we want to lead out, it's not quite to that point yet. We need to do a little bit more growth, which we're working on. And, my grandfather, he's almost 80 now, and he's the greatest guy ever, but he's still out there all the time. So once he kind of leaves that behind and moves into town full time and stuff, that'll kind of give me another opportunity to get out there a bit more. But I've it's been my primary job up until this point. Now it's like a 50-50 balance. But I've had jobs with Farm Bureau. I've worked just some small part-time gigs going through college along with the ranch. Worked as an intern with Monsanto for a while and a couple other ag companies, and then worked as a facilitator for National FFA and a couple others as well. So I've always done something on the side too, but it's always been other jobs that have been related to ag so that I can learn from those jobs or share my experiences through those jobs to impact somebody else. But just kind of a balancing act so that I can get something out of it and it can get something out of me.
Cool. And so where did you go to college?
So I got my associate's degree from South Dakota State University. So I went there for 2 years right away. And then after that, I had a super big interest in range science. So I actually transferred down to New Mexico State University and absolutely loved the New Mexico State College of Aces. Had a really great time down there and was able to kind of build a large connection and network down there of people who were mentors and coaches and other people connected in the ag industry that kind of taught me about aspects of the ag industry outside of South Dakota rather than just the Midwest. I got to learn about some stuff that happens around the country and other places, especially the Southwest. And that I feel like really helped me grow and understand the industry as a whole.
Okay, I guarantee you somebody watching or listening is asking themselves, what is range science? Can you explain what range science is?
Yeah, so range science or range management, which is kind of my specialty there, is utilizing the wildlands of North America without cultivating them for crop production and putting them into farm ground, still utilizing the vegetation that's on them for things like cattle grazing and wildlife management or ecosystem services. So a lot of our pasture land is in the native forbs and grasses that were originally there. So that's just a way that we manage our rangeland through grazing with cattle. But we also are able to manage like our creek breaks and our draws out at our ranch for wildlife, recreation, and management. So just different ways of managing the plants and animal species that are already out there that we have available and then turning a profit from them.
Okay. Well, I would think, if I was a seventh generation rancher, part of me would think like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be taking over this ranch someday, or at least contributing in some aspect. What motivated you to want to get out there and pursue some of these other opportunities with internships and going elsewhere for college? What was that driving factor, even though you probably had some hunch that eventually you'd work your way back to Western South Dakota?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Like I've always known that Western South Dakota is home. That's where my heart is. I knew I was going to be involved with the ranch. Really, like while I was in college, my motivating factor was this is the time to do it. Like now is the only time that I'm really going to be able to go away for, multiple months out of the year and be okay with that. And we'll still have enough people out at our farm and ranch. Like I said, my grandpa's still involved. I've got my dad involved, cousins, my uncle, all sorts of people out there who, if I were to leave, I could find a replacement for myself pretty easily without putting them in any sort of burdensome situation that they're, left high and dry. So I just found internships and companies and different ag endeavors that I was really interested in that I knew I could learn from and potentially, gain some sort of knowledge to bring back to our own operation or just into my life for growth as a person. My senior year in high school, I think is when I became really, really interested in genetics in crop species. So that's like right then I decided someday I want to work for a biotech company. And so I chased after this internship with Monsanto, and they had like 3,000 applicants. And I was lucky enough to be one of the ones who they actually selected for the position, and absolutely loved it. Learned a little bit about genetics, did the chemistry rotations, did some of the rotations with salesship. We did crop scouting, agronomy, all sorts of different stuff there. And coming from a dry land crop farm with wheat, safflower, millet, and alfalfa, I wasn't used to the corn and soybeans other than what I learned at Brookings at SDSU. So it was kind of a new aspect for me and a new whole new world for me. And it gave me a good opportunity to kind of look into that side of the industry and understand it more so that I could further educate other people on it. I have always been a big believer that biotech is a great option for our future, and it's going to be something that helps feed the world. But I know there's a lot of skeptics out there who are kind of hesitant about bioengineering and genetic engineering of crops and livestock and that kind of stuff. So I wanted to get kind of on the inside and educate myself as much as possible, and so that I could continue to share a positive message about it, but be more knowledgeable on that situation when I was conveying that message. And then with National FFA, I was a state FFA officer in South Dakota, ran for National FFA office. I just had so many different connections through it and so many friends through it, and loved being around people and teaching people and helping people to become better people or to be confident in themselves, that I took on that position. And it was something that I really, really enjoyed doing. And it was the New Century Farmer Program, which if anybody watching is under the age of 25, definitely recommend applying for that through National FFA. You get a week in Des Moines, Iowa, or Indianapolis, Indiana, depending on where it is that year. But it allows you to dive completely into the ag industry, and it is really the only ag-focused conference that FFA really puts on. So we toured DuPont Pioneer, and we toured several farms and ranches around Des Moines. We looked at Case IH and John Deere, just like all these different implement dealers, ag businesses, commodity organizations. We got insight on all those, and then we talked a lot about farm succession because it's production ag focus, and that's kind of one of those bear cat topics that comes up. Unfortunately, doesn't always go well for everybody. So that's something I really recommend anybody who's interested would apply for.
Yeah, so a lot to unpack there. Number one, the New Century Farmer Program.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's good. The New Century Farmer Program comes up a lot. I mean, they I don't think they bring in more than 50 people to that per year.
Yeah,
it's a very small and exclusive group, but I'm amazed at how many people I run into that went to that and rave about it. You know, considering how small of a total group of people who've ever gone it is. So yeah, if you're under 25, FFA member, and I guess you probably have to be an FFA member.
Yep.
And are in production agriculture in any way, it's kind of a must-attend event, I think.
Definitely.
But the other thing I wanted to talk to you about on the internships, I have found it sounds like similar to you that both of the internships I did really have nothing to do with my career now. I mean, one of them I was with a vegetable seed company, and then the other one I was an intern for a forage crop researcher. Both were fascinating. I loved them, but I don't really use them day to day now. But I'm so glad I did them because I do pull out things here and there that really are helpful. It sounds like maybe the same experience for you.
Yeah, so I don't directly use, bioengineering and genetic engineering day to day at all, other than in the food products I eat for the most part. But I do bring a lot of that stuff into my day to day life through the education part, like where I'm an educator at Western Dakota Tech. It's something that I want to educate my students on as well. Corn didn't used to get grown in Western South Dakota at all. Like you would never see a cornfield. Now, if you drive down the interstate through Western South Dakota, every third field is a cornfield. And it's becoming a more and more common thing out here. So genetic engineering is going to start to take its place more and more in Western South Dakota. And I want to prepare, the future generations of producers and consumers in Western South Dakota and let them know like what's going on, why it's going on, how it's going on. So I can still pull from that knowledge all the time. And then with the New Century Farmer stuff, farm and ranch management, succession, those are topics that come up almost daily in my job now. And then also stuff I've had to deal with myself at our farm and ranch. We're going through succession with my grandfather getting ready to leave. Like I said, he's 80, but he's still not quite there yet. But we're kind of working through this really long succession plan. And there's definitely struggles with it, but learning about this ahead of time and learning that some of these things were going to happen or were likely to happen has really helped me to understand it and continue to kind of roll with the punches as best possible moving forward, because farm succession can honestly break in operation, unfortunately. But if you're able to roll with it and continue to move forward and have an end goal where everybody's, kind of on a good solid page, that's what's going to help you be successful going into the future.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk more about farm succession. And I put it up on the screen. So if I misspelled it, maybe somebody in the comments correct me. But how do you do that as the youngest? What role do you play? You're probably the most motivated to have a plan, but maybe the least well positioned to have an influence over the process. So how's that for you? And I'm not trying to pry in personal details as much or as little as you want to share.
No, that's okay. Honestly, it's kind of difficult. I'm not going to lie. Being the youngest of my family, like I said, usually the youngest kind of gets looked down on just a little bit, which is a struggle. Obviously, I haven't had as many life experiences in a lot of ways. Like I've worked different jobs. I've been to different places. I've seen and done a lot of things. But at the same time, so has my grandfather and my dad and my uncle and my cousins, like in their own ways. So for me to come in and like tell them this is how things need to be done doesn't fly like at all. Like I can make suggestions and I can give data that backs up the suggestions that I make. But really I just kind of have to show them, and I have to be patient with that because ultimately I'm not the one who started up this farm and ranch. It hasn't been my baby for the last, 65 years, in my 80-year-old grandfather's case. He started working out there when he was really, really young, had to leave home for a while to go to high school because his parents couldn't afford to feed him and his siblings all at the same time. So he had to work on his own starting at age 12. Wow. And then was coming back to the farm by riding a train every single weekend, just back and forth between Rapid City and Wall, and then going out to the farm and working, and then going back to Rapid City the next day. And he was doing that throughout his entire middle school and high school career. So he's struggled to get where he is today, and he's kind of built, I don't want to say like an empire, but he's built a very successful farm and ranch. I'm the 7th generation, so he would be the 5th, but really he's the one who expanded on it the most. He's the one who kind of got it to where it is today. And he has won several different awards of Farmer Rancher of the Year, Western South Dakota Producer of the Year, several through Farm Bureau, all sorts of different awards for the practices that he's done. So for me to come in, being, a 23-year-old guy and say this is what we need to do, it doesn't always go over well. But he also understands that I'm, very willing to work hard, and I'm always out there helping him and always kind of going above and beyond. So I just, through my actions, I want to show him that I'm trustworthy enough that, my ideas also have value, and the things that I know can help us in these instances rather than just kind of all going into it kind of blindly. So,
yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's so important. And a lot of people outside of production agriculture don't get to see, the struggle there, because everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants a long-term, lasting legacy that is the family farm and ranch. But trying to decide on what the right course of action on a day-to-day basis has got to be a struggle. Let's shift gears here a little bit, though. I want to hear more about your role at Western Dakota Tech. So my understanding is you had caught wind that they were trying to bring back a farm and ranch management program that had been gone since 2008. What made you think maybe you might be the right person for the job?
That's honestly a great question. Again, I kind of struggled in my mind of, am I too young for this? Is this really a good fit for me? But I did know a couple things. I knew that I loved educating other people. It's something I've always enjoyed doing. I knew that I had a passion for agriculture and that I had some pretty good experiences with agriculture. And I knew that I wanted whoever I interacted with to leave a better person, to have a better day going forward. So those were kind of my 3 main parts to chasing after this position a bit. And luckily I had some interview knowledge and practice from some of my time in FFA and stuff. So I put my resume together and I whipped it up and, tried to make it as good as possible with the, relatively limited information that I had, limited experiences that I had. And I threw it all together and I submitted it, and really didn't expect a call back or anything. I was working for Farm Bureau at the time when I was submitting it, and still do a little bit of work with them, but not so much. And enjoyed my job, but it wasn't something that I saw myself really loving. I enjoyed it. I got through it day to day. I love Farm Bureau, don't get me wrong. But it was more of a desk job, and it wasn't one that I was constantly interacting with, students who were looking for guidance. And this was an opportunity for me to do that. So I applied, didn't think I was gonna, get anything out of it. But then I got called in for a first round interview, and I went in there, and I'm sure I just bored them to death. It was supposed to be like a 45-minute interview. It ended up lasting like almost 2 hours.
Good sign.
But yeah, they were laughing, and it was a really, really good time. I had a really great time being in there with them, and these were fellow instructors on this interview committee. And it seemed like they were very welcoming, and I walked around the campus ahead of the interview and then again after the interview, and just kept thinking through my head, like, can I see myself here? Is this something that I really want to actually chase after? And I just kept coming up with the answer, yes. Like, this is absolutely where I want to be, at least for a while. Like, eventually I'd love to be at the ranch full time, but for the next 10, 15, 20 years, I want to devote myself to something that betters other people. So I, left that interview, went back home, figured because I went over by like an hour and 15 minutes, I wasn't going to get a call. And then I got a call back to do the president's interview, which was the second round, and it was between myself and one other individual. And I didn't know who this other person was, but I was kind of shocked at that point. But I just kind of had to give myself some pep talks, some motivation, go to church, pray a little bit on it. And I went in there and shortened the length of my interview this time. I stayed within my time constraints. Went in there and just tried to have a good time, show them who I was, tell them about my experiences and then why I was interested in it. And I also had to submit a lesson plan and a couple of like lab activities that I had to design. So curriculum development, I submitted those as well, and they must have appreciated them because the next day I got a call, and I was ecstatic. I mean, it was one of the best feelings ever. So it's been a great fit. I absolutely love it.
That is great. And I love it. I love the story. Thanks for telling it. Tell us about the program though. So what is the purpose of the program, and what does the career options look like for someone who's graduating? And is it a certificate or a degree?
Yeah, so we're an associate's degree program under the title Farm and Ranch Management, and we are targeting future generations of producers in Western South Dakota. We're pretty specialized around the commodities being produced in Western South Dakota, in the industry in Western South Dakota, and also like Western North Dakota, Eastern Wyoming and Montana, and then like Northwestern Nebraska. Those are kind of our focus areas. It's kind of just that geological area. But we're focusing on several different things within the program. We cover things like business management and economics, and also just communication skills. Some of your soft skills we'll work on. But we also cover things like agronomy and livestock management and like the reproduction cycle of cattle, and we're covering range and forage pasture management, and we're covering different production techniques and soil science and all sorts of different things that are to build the next generation of ag producers. So people who are going to have their own farms and ranches or take over the family's farms and ranches. But we're also aiming at preparing students for entering industry if that's what they decide to do. So ag businesses throughout the area, whether it's an agronomy company, a seed dealership and sales, if it is an animal science industry related business around here, we're aiming at filling those voids that we're lacking currently in Western South Dakota of qualified applicants to fill those positions. So like I said, we didn't have anything in Western South Dakota to fill the animal science positions. We didn't have a college to fill the future farm and rancher positions. We didn't have anything to educate people for those agronomy and range science positions, NRCS jobs, USDA jobs throughout the area, FSA even. But now we're building curriculum, and we have this program going that is preparing students for that. And I'm building an advisory panel right now that consists of industry experts, so from FSA, USDA, NRCS, Farm Bureau will be on there, members from all sorts of different ag industry, but then also some of the producers around Western South Dakota. So I have large farm and ranch families, I have specialty crop families, I have smaller operations, people representing each of these who will sit on this advisory panel, and they'll convey the information that they think is the most essential towards their success. And we'll implement that into our curriculum, into the program, so that we can educate our students as best possible for the workforce.
I think it's fantastic. I really think what you're doing is extremely important. My quote unquote day job, as a recruiter, is I'm at the vantage point of these ag companies that are hiring, and it seems like there is a disconnect out there of the skills being developed for what the employers actually want. I'm trying to get a feel for that for ag grad, but if there's one place where I can see it happening and having the potential to continue to happen at scale, it's through technical colleges, community colleges, those types of programs. So I really think it's fantastic that you're doing. How many people are in the program currently?
We just have a handful currently. So not too many this first year starting out, but through this upcoming year and moving forward, we have a lot more recruiting events coming up. So I've been going to several high school visits, FFA competitions and contests and events, 4-H events coming up. We'll be at the Black Hills Stock Show and Rodeo. All these different ag-related events, just being there and conveying that, hey, we have this program now. The marketing of it, we've been trying our best, but because we are a smaller community college or a technical college on the western side of the state, our breadth of where we're expanding to, or our influence, is kind of limited to our geographical area. So we're trying to pull, resources together to let people know that, hey, this is what we have going on. But some of the best ways that we're doing that is through just like our marketing techniques that we're really enhancing going forward. We wanted to kind of roll out the program sort of slow to start with, so that we can make little changes and adapt a little bit and then keep going forward and get stronger each year. But we're already doing some pretty awesome things, which is great. And we've got some really awesome things in the pipeline too. We, like the Farm and Ranch Management program, is working together with the Environmental Science program and the Electrical Trades program. And we're doing controlled environment agriculture practices on campus, which are really cool. We just fenced off 40 acres behind the campus. We'll bring in a few head of livestock, so students will be able to work with cattle directly on campus and goats directly on campus potentially. And there's only, 30, 35 colleges in the nation that have that. So we're going to be right up there with them in terms of what we have available for students to learn from. And the controlled environment agriculture is splitting off into its own program. So we're supplementing curriculum for that, and we'll have students bouncing back and forth between the two and have overlapping classes. So we'll get a lot of discussion and I guess a lot of just working together between those programs and trying to make both of them better at the same time.
Man, you got a lot of stuff going on.
Definitely.
You know what I think about when I hear stuff like this? It gets me so excited. The student that wasn't there for a year ago, and now they're graduating. How lucky they are! If that's what they want, I mean, they've got it, and what a big impact that's going to have on their life. Get to learn those really practical skills and either get a job or start a business of their own or go into a family business. Man, I think that's awesome. So want to encourage you. Where can we send people that want to learn more about your program? Because personally, I want to learn more about your program. So for me and others that want to learn more, where do they go?
So if you go to wdt.edu, you can find out more information there. You just click on degree programs and you can click on Farm and Ranch Management, and that'll take you.
I did it backwards. Sorry. I knew this was going to happen. Typing on the fly. Sorry.
No, you're good.
wdt.edu.
Yep. That's the website for the school. And then if you click on degree programs and Farm and Ranch Management, you can gain some more information on it. We are just about to unveil some new logos and images for the program on there too. So we're pretty excited about that coming this week. So keep your eye out for those kind of things. And additionally, you can check out environmental engineering technology on there too. That'll give you some more information on that controlled environment agriculture.
Awesome. Kaden, congratulations. I mean,
Thank you.
Fantastic things. Obviously excited to have you as part of the first ever 30 under 30. Please let me know how AgGrad can continue to support what you're doing. I think it's really important work, and thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, for those of you watching, make sure that you go and check out on the AgGrad website how you can nominate someone for next year's 30 under 30. And we'll be back next week, I think, with the 30th person on the inaugural class. So thanks for tuning in, and we're going to sign off.
Thank you for joining AgGrad Live. Visit aggrad.com, that's AGGRAD, to join the community, create your profile, and learn more about careers in the agriculture industry.